Well, welcome once again to ARTbreak, everyone. A special welcome to those of you who braved the cold weather to be here in person. Well, yesterday, of course, was Martin Luther King Day, which is a way of marking King's legacy and accomplishments on a national level. Today, we'll have an opportunity to reflect on Dr. King, the man himself, in a very different context, and that is as a character in a two-person play. Last year, Kalamazoo College's Festival Playhouse staged a production of The Mountaintop, which was written by Katori Hall. And it's a play that's entirely set in a room at the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis on the night before Dr. King was shot. And what the play is really kind of a dramatic reimagining of the last day of his life in this context. The 2003 production at Kalamazoo College was directed by Quincy Thomas, and who is the assistant director of theater arts at Kalamazoo College. And he is here today with the two cast members, Jared Pittman and Milan Levy, to reflect back on that production and discuss some of the unique challenges it presented, and I think perhaps too also how a fictional account of a historic figure can perhaps cast some real light or insight that doesn't necessarily come through the facts. So please welcome Dr. Quincy Thomas, Jared Pittman, and Milan Levy.
Hi. As has already been said, my name is Dr. Quincy Thomas, and we are going to have a conversation today about this play that my esteemed colleagues and I put on last year. Let's see if I have any notes here. Okay, I do. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the things that inspired the play, some of the elements that we really had to focus on when doing this work. We, of course, cannot cover everything. Dr. King's legacy is lengthy. But we're gonna go over this and reflect on some of the things from our experience. I was, of course, the director of the play, and so yeah, we're gonna get into this. So first of all, it's probably important to note that the play was about Dr. Martin Luther King. Some important things to note: he led the civil rights movement from 1965 to 1968, and this fight for justice and equality for African Americans is some of the greatest work that's ever been done for the Black community. I mean, it's the civil rights movement. He was a pastor, a father, a husband, and an executive committee member of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, a key organization in the fight for civil rights that was founded in 1909. A very influential figure in the Montgomery bus boycott, which led to the Supreme Court declaring that bus segregation was illegal. This was, of course, sparked by the arrest of Rosa Parks, and the work that he did, of course, to bring that about was of course, all nonviolent protest. That's a very important aspect of who Martin Luther King is. And then in April 1968, while Dr. King was in Memphis, Tennessee, supporting the sanitation worker strike, he was assassinated at the Lorraine Hotel. And this point is a foundational element of the play that we worked on last year. So the briefest bit of information about the subject matter for the play. The person who wrote the play, Katori Hall, the award-winning Harvard and Juilliard-trained television creator, producer, and playwright, has had her works produced on Broadway and has won 2 Tony Awards in 2021. She won the Pulitzer Prize for her play Hot Wing King. As kind of was already mentioned, The Mountaintop is a fantastical reimagining of Dr. King's final night. It premiered at Theatre 503 in London in 2009, then transferred to the West End, where she won the Olivier Award for Best Play in 2010. It later opened on Broadway in October 2011 in critical acclaim, and a production starring Samuel L. Jackson and Angela Bassett. Katori Hall says that the play was inspired by the fact that a story about her mother. So her mother wanted to go see Dr. King in April 1968 when he was in Memphis, and Hall's grandmother said, no, you cannot. So her mom was very, very upset, and her grandma was like, no, you can't go see Dr. King, because there had been a rumor that there was a rumor going around that if King had was coming to support the sanitation workers, that he would probably be killed, and there was going to be a great deal of violence. And so Katori Hall's grandmother would not allow her mother to attend, would not let her mother go see King. And then, of course, King was assassinated. And that not being able to see King is something that has weighed on Katori Hall's mother forever. And that was the motivation of this play. The thing that is the cultural moment that really is foundational to this piece is the Memphis sanitation strike, right? So what is the Memphis sanitation strike? On February 1st, 1968, two Memphis garbage collectors, Ecole Cole and Robert Walker, were crushed to death by a malfunctioning truck. 11 days later, frustrated by the city's response to the latest event and a long pattern of neglect and abuse of its Black employees, 1,300 Black men from the Memphis Department of Public Works went on strike. Yes, it was the death of these two men that was the catalyst for the strike, but to be clear, it wasn't just that two men died and then everyone decided to go on strike. There is a litany of reasons why this happened. These Black employees were being paid less than their white counterparts. They were not given, while they were demanded to work overtime, they were not given pay for that work. Safety concerns, safety measures were completely disregarded, and again, their white counterparts were given allowances that they were not. They would ask to be come in when conditions were bad to work, and if the conditions were so bad they had to get sent home, they wouldn't get paid for that labor. And then, of course, you could just fire a Black employee without any cause, without any reason. So these are the kinds of things they had been complaining about. It escalated, it didn't get any better, and then two men died. The night before his assassination in April 1968, Martin Luther King told a group of striking sanitation workers in Memphis, quote, "We've got to give ourselves to the struggle until the end. Nothing would be more tragic than to stop at this point in Memphis. We've got to see it through." If they didn't strike, if they didn't do the thing that had to be done to protect themselves, so many more men would have died. And this was something that was, the inequity was something that infuriated King, and it was something that he was very, very passionate about, particularly when it came to Black workers. So that's basically, some of the structure, some of the influence behind the play. And those kinds of things are taken into account when you talk about the themes of the Mountaintop. So these are the things that my amazing actors and I decided were going to be some of the things that we really wanted to cling to when doing this work, because of the importance of them to the story, but also to the legacy of Dr. King. So the first thing that we wanted to think about was the man versus the icon. His public versus his private image. While I love Dr. King and the work that he's done, I think that it could be said that he's kind of been placed in his legacy has kind of turned him into an immortal character. And I say character because we've kind of created this fictionalization of Dr. King, where he's a perfect being, right? Like he's infallible. He is almost godlike. And that is kind of an unfair expectation to put on a man. It was an expectation that was put on him while he was alive. What does it mean to be a leader? Do our leaders have to be perfect? I would suggest in this day and age that we have seen that they do not have to be perfect. Do we hold leaders to a higher standard? Do we hold leaders of color to a higher standard? These are the questions that were raised. These are the questions that we thought were important to us when it came to the issue of who is this man and what does his legacy turn him into? There's a quote from the play that the character Camae says, well, sometimes you done cleared the hurdles and sometimes you ain't. You done brought us far, but you're a man. You're just a man, baby. You're not God, though some folks say you got mighty close, right? While he was alive, he was put on this pedestal. He was put in a place where he was not allowed to do wrong. So when he made a mistake or when he faltered, that infraction, he was judged much harsher than his white counterparts. Nonviolence. This is a huge thing. This is a really, really huge thing. King famously shuns violence when it comes to his activism and his protesting. And in this play, we have Katori Hall wants to confront that, right? The question of what does a Black person have to do to be heard? What should they do in the name of protest? Hall wants to address that, and so what she does is she creates Camae, a character who thinks of herself as an official member of the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party dedicated to the exact same thing King was, but deciding to use different methods, violent methods, to get their point across. So you have these two characters in the play that are working around this theme of nonviolence. Camae and King have a conversation in the play where Camae says, walking will only get you so far, Preacher King, to which the character of King says, we're not just walking, we're marching, right? To suggest that walking is an activity and marching is how you begin a movement. So walking and marching are two different things, and marching may seem nonviolent, but what King is suggesting is that solidarity, that movement, that is the kind of thing that can make change happen, as is evidenced by the fact that you can no longer, that segregation on buses is illegal. Next, perseverance. This is really important in that in the Mountaintop, what we see is a version of Dr. King that is worn down. He is tired from the very outset of the play. He has been emotionally and mentally broken, almost to the place of being emotionally and mentally broken. But he believes the only way for Black people to truly succeed is to fight the obstacles that stand before them and to continue that fight until you reach the promised land. In the play, there's a moment where the character of King says, my house has been bombed, my arm twisted behind my back, my face shoved into a ground of gravel. I have been kicked at, spit at, pummeled, abused, looked at with the deepest scorn. After all that, tell me I ain't jumped over every hurdle of this race. Perseverance, right? Dr. King is trying to let his people know, Katori Hall is trying to let the audience know, let Black folks know, let brown people know, let marginalized people know, you have to keep going, right? You have to keep going, you have to keep going, and then guess what? When you're tired, you have to keep going again until you have the ability to pass the baton, which is a really, really big thing in this play. It's basically the thing that drives the play, and it is the culminating, that this sentiment is one of the culminating sentiments of the play itself. In the play, King is faced with the thought that the civil rights movement will not go on without him. And the audience is basically told, no matter their creed or color, to take up the baton and continue that work, because the work of anti-racism is forever, right? It's going to last as long as racism lasts. And I don't know what's going on right now, but in my lifetime, racism is not going anywhere. In my child's lifetime, racism isn't going anywhere. So the work of anti-racism is something that requires perseverance, but it also requires the passing of the baton. And unfortunately, you cannot pass a baton unless someone is there to pick it up. So in this play, the play ends with this admonishment to continue to do the work. Camae in the play says, but you're gonna have to pass off that baton, little man. You're in a relay race, albeit the faster runner we done ever seen. But you're about to burn out, superstar. You're gonna need to pass off that baton. No one lives forever. And Katori Hall is trying to say here through these two characters that the work that Dr. King started has to be intentionally moved forward, right? It cannot just lay there, it cannot just sit there. It's not going to grow on its own. If we could do it on our own, if it could do it on its own, it would have. So, yeah, those are the themes that we really focused on. That's the work that we did. And next, what we're going to do is we're going to have a small reading, a little bit from the fantastic actors that did this work. And then when they're done, we will come up here and we will answer some questions for you. And now, Milan and Pitt.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Let's give it up.
We had such a great time putting in the work to tell this story with Dr. Quincy and the production team. We're going to read from pages 25 and 26, so pretty brief, and then we'll continue with the rest of the program today. Sounds good?
Yes.
All right. Ready?
Yeah.
Good. Do all angels look as good as you?
Yes.
Heaven must be mighty nice then. Wonder what the women of hell look like.
Oh, honey, they fine. Why you keep saying that?
Camae, you really an angel.
I'm sorry I called you Michael. Not too many folks probably know that about you. God says your Christian name kind of calms you. Ralph called you that too. Calm you down quick fast. It's a nice name. It ain't better than Camae.
I changed it.
We know that he did. I done read your file when you was just 5. But I don't know why y'all want to be named after some Martin Luther though. I met him in the cafeteria today, and he kind of weird. Very.
You really an angel.
What else I gotta do for you to believe me? Cry flowers?
But why did God send you?
What you mean by that?
Why
She
sends you? You know what I was expecting.
you weren't what I was expecting either. Preacher, and
Well, I'm not perfect.
that you ain't.
Hey, don't judge me. You fussing, cussing, drinking, angel.
Well, God knows what you like, huh?
Hey, that ain't funny.
The truth ain't got to be fair, it's the truth.
But why you?
Believe you me, I ain't want this job. First day, bring over you, the cat. I ain't want to do it. But God been getting these prayers from a little named Bunny. Please, God, don't let my daddy die alone. Well, when I heard it, well, it just about broke my heart. I just asked
You
him.
know her nickname? Bernice. My sweet Bernice. My baby girl spoke to you.
Her prayers are powerful. I can tell she's jealous. She got so many words, a gift. Sound like she's gonna be a preacher one day too. I don't like children too much, but she's something special.
My buddy. My baby girl. Even she knows.
Yes. I'm gonna have to take you on to the other side. Look, I know you're afraid, Preacher
How you
County,
know I'm afraid?
because you should be.
Talk about fear. Come on. Well, I have felt fear. Felt it in my guts. Felt it in my toes. felt it even when I stood in front of my own congregation in my own church. There, beneath that old rugged cross, I quaked and shook with fear. My insides churned and I fought hard to keep it from leaping out of my mouth. You see, a Negro man is not safe in the pulpit. Not even in the pulpit of his own making. Sunday mornings have been the mornings when I am most afraid. Because in this country, the pulpit is a pedestal. We all know that in America, the tall tree fell first. The tall tree has more wood to burn, Camae. We are the sacrifice.
You've been knowing I was coming, haven't you?
Yes, oh yes, I've dreamed of you. Rather, at night, man. In my darkest hours, I even prayed for you with eyes wide open. Then so many death threats, some nights I asked God, please, just get it over with. Even tonight, at the church, wouldn't have death be so beautiful. Almost make a man want to die.
You're not afraid of me?
Fear than my companion, my lover. I never touch a fear even more than I know to touch my own wife. Fear, Camae, is my best friend. She's the reason I get up in the morning. Because I know if I'm still afraid, I'm still alive.
Tomorrow, when it's time, you're going to have to take my hand.
Thank you.
All right, well, that was, let's give it up for these brilliant actors. Wow, I forgot. So now it's just Q&A. Does anybody have any questions for any of us? Oh, it's not really easy. Oh, nice. Let's go here and then back here.
What did it take to get back into the characters after like a year of not being anymore?
Now that you say it, it has been close to a year. Wow, it was in the heat of process at this point in time last year. I honestly, it didn't take much at all. I think certain characters just kind of stick with you. And Dr. King being a non-fictional character and being someone who, as an actor, I really had the opportunity to research and kind of listen to some speeches and gain his cadence and tone. And then the work that we did, character work and trying to tell the story and finding the different themes and trying to push them out within the script. It wasn't hard at all, especially working with such a talent like Milan. I just said when I sat down, it didn't take much to get back in pocket, because it was so well written that those emotions, those feelings, those beats, you just kind of just fall into it.
Yeah, very similarly. I think Camae is going to be that character that's always going to be like close to home for me. It's the biggest role I've actually ever had, and probably the hardest role I've ever had. So the work I put into it is kind of ingrained in me. I was nervous about reading it again today and like having an accent with the whole thing, but like once I was doing it, once we got her, it was easy to connect with it again. Like it felt good. I don't know. I missed it. It's a good one.
Kind of like muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yes.
What year King was born in?
I can Google it.
What year can we?
Let's see. 1929. 1929.
Cool. Do you have a follow-up? Do you have anything else?
No, I talked to you.
Cool. Anybody else?
This is not related to what you just did, but did anybody hear King's granddaughter on NPR last night? She's 15 years old and just an amazing speaker. And I was just thinking in 2029, there'll be 100 anniversary of this birth. But everybody should hear it. She's incredible.
You should go with that.
Yeah, she comes from good stocks. I would imagine so.
What was that?
I said she comes from good stock, so
Right.
I would imagine so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anybody else?
What did you think about the 2 pages you read?
I wanted you to keep going.
Yeah.
I was really invested.
It's nostalgic too, right? Like I used to hear that every night.
Right. You did this a year ago?
Sure did.
At Kalamazoo College.
Yeah, but I saw it many more years ago at K, right? I'm sure.
We did it
Couple
with,
more.
we did it with Face Off.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
How many years ago was that? You know?
I don't remember. Four?
Before COVID.
No, like,
Yeah, it was before COVID.
Before.
Yes.
Is it likely to be performed again?
I got about 45 years. It could probably only takes 2 actors, and I've done all my work, so. Maybe for the 100.
For the 100?
For the 100.
I'll
We're
ask,
saying let me go anywhere.
I'll ask a question to the actors. Well, actually, the director can answer too. What kinds of specific character, like either research or exercises or stuff did you both do for your characters to make them, it's like there's some stuff that's like us, right? And then there's other stuff, especially when you're paying a real person. Well, yours wasn't necessarily a real person, but what kinds of things, like physical things did you do, or research-wise did you do, or emotional connection-wise did you do?
Yeah, well, one of the first things which Dr. Thomas really let us know was like, King was going to be a lot more slow with the words, and I was a lot more fast. And a lot of things like I was a very quick, high energy, and so I had to work on that and just being more quick with it and being more almost like loose with my body. Because I would say, because although Camae is a fictional character, there was a realistic person she could have been, especially when she talked about before she became an angel, who she was, and so I focused a lot on that to humanize her and not just let her be an angel, and even in the person that she was, that also isn't so close to Milan, but in knowing like what she had to endure as a Black woman, and growing up as a Black woman, like there was a lot that's already there and already in connection that I could draw on. So I had to just sit a lot with myself and the lines and just kind of connect them and how I want to say them and find that, like, especially that ending monologue where she talks about saying God for the first time and how she didn't understand why she was in heaven because she did so many bad things. She had so much shame on her. And I also hold a lot of shame on myself just as a person. So I found myself going to that monologue a lot to humanize her earlier in the script, if that makes any sense.
Great question. Obviously, again, Dr. K being a non-fictional character, I had some things that I could go to. Probably after our first rehearsal, I probably went home and listened to his Mountaintop speech for about like an hour, 2 hours or so, or multiple times throughout the entire process, just so I can gain voice, so I can try to mimic his voice, cadence, because like Milan was saying, Camae was a more fast talker, and King was more slower to his words. this character was a little bit difficult just because, I'm a very realistic and practical person, and he was borderline delusional because, of course, he didn't want to accept the fact that the following day he would be called to heaven. So he was fighting, basically desperate. So I had to play like a desperate individual, and that's in my normal day-to-day things. I found myself in a position to be desperate. So that portraying that was interesting. Also dealing with death. Death is pretty heavy, and because he is humanized in this play, his fears, his anxieties, his insecurities, his infidelities, and things of that nature. Trying to embody all of those things, but also still like pinpoint the work and the legacy that he did. So like Milan, I set with myself a lot. I listened to a lot of old interviews and speeches of his. And then I tried to make the personal connection of, he was a leader. I've always been a natural leader in my life. His goal was to, his goal was to liberate, Black folks and whatnot. And my goal in life is to inspire, motivate, and uplift people. So try to make those two connections and try to find a Dr. King within myself to pull that, out of me. And then the last speech that he had in the play, I think the last show we did, I think I actually came to tears just because it kind of like, it all just came full circle. All of the work just came full circle. And the other thing is, me and Dr. Thomas had to go back and forth a little bit because I was reluctant on cutting my beard. Because Dr. King didn't have a beard, but so that was probably the physical, change I had to make to my. We did. We kept the hairline, I appreciate that. Yeah, a year later, my hairline makes me today. But like that was truly like, obviously that was my biggest role up to date besides the one I'm doing now. So really like leaning in and really buying into like you got to be this person. So even doing the method acting of wearing my wedding ring and trying not throughout the day to try not to play with it and things of that nature. So yeah.
So I'm curious, when you did the shaving, you shaved off your beard, did it offer a vulnerability for you? Or
Absolutely.
What did it do? Like there must have been some kind of.
Yeah, for sure. They say beard is a man's makeup. So, and I haven't seen myself like non-facial hair, unbearded in a long time. Like when I was born, I had a mustache. I was very. My mom was like, "Y'all didn't clean my baby face." I'm like, "No, ma'am, he just has a mustache." So I always had facial hair and whatnot. But him having his insecurities, that was an insecurity of mine. Because now I have to, be this person who I am, but now I don't have my beard, which I prefer, right? It's a preference of mine. But so yeah, that made the connection with the insecurities of whatever he was feeling throughout the script.
Fear.
Yeah, for sure. Fear, yeah.
Thank you.
So quick plug. Pitt is in a play with Face Off Theater called Goodnight Tyler, which opens on Friday. Milan is the stage manager. I did the intimacy coordination for it. So go.
Working together.
Yes, we cannot stop. I think to answer your question, Ren, for me, first of all, I was blessed with such fantastic actors that I could just say, hey, this needs to be more like this, and they would just do it. We didn't have to do it. It was really easy communicating with them. But for me, I really thought that they were both really magical characters, and there was such a musicality to the script. And so I wanted, there were times I wanted Dr. King to feel more like a beat poet or a rapper, and like a slow, methodical lyricist. And then I wanted the Camae to be a little bit like more upbeat, as far as tone, like vaudevillian, like that kind of fast, like almost comedic, just so they were always contrasting. The way that they were communicating with one another. I needed to keep her light because he has to go through so much, and that was really difficult because Katori Hall wrote some really difficult things to ask Black bodies to do, and some really difficult things that we have to ask ourselves about Dr. King, which is one of the biggest critiques about this show. A lot of people do not like this show because they feel like Katori Hall is being disrespectful to Dr. King. Like there's a moment where he smells his shoes, they smell disgusting, like he pees with the bathroom door open, does not wash his hands, which we all have thought that like, wait, does it say this? That seems intentional. But it's because she was so interested in the humanity of who he was, not necessarily the fiction that we have all created surrounding who he was. So that was really, the man versus icon element was huge because like, how do we humanize this person that's been turned into, rightfully so, been turned into like a being bigger than we can really even understand. We were very lucky to go to Memphis on a trip, to take our students. That really hit home that aspect of it, that he is, the work that he has done, his legacy is eternal, it is forever, but it was done by a man with real foibles, with real insecurities, with real sadness. It was a burden for him. It was a burden for him, and we were able to tell that story because of the amazing work that these two did. So, I think we're supposed to wrap up soon. So, Dr. Marion Thomas is thumbs up from the booth. So, I'll probably have time for one more question. Go get the readers. Isaiah!
How do you feel like these roles have impacted you in acting and just life in general up to this day?
Damn.
Students! That's okay, I was educated. Honestly, because of the role I'm playing now, in Goodnight Tyler being basically a young Black man whose life is taken by the police, and he comes back and haunts his best friend and the other individuals that he loves, his loved ones. The kind of mindset and like the desperation that Dr. King had, I kind of implemented into Tyler a little bit because he too is a little delusional in his reality of being a dead person, a ghost. But this role actually gave me a push to want to do more acting and to be more creative and to feed my creative niches and other endeavors in my life. But also it really allowed me to stretch myself and to take on newer things and to continue to grow in my purpose and to continue to interact with unfamiliar individuals, to continue to stretch myself as an individual, as a person, and walking in the path that God has placed me on. It was really tremendous. And again, working with Milan, Dr. Q, yourself, and the rest of the production team was truly great because with the work that the script and the story that we were telling, the individuals that were in that space, the safe space that it was, that you created and cultivated for us. Now I have like something that I'm looking towards in all things that I work with. Like, what is the director like? I kind of go back to Dr. Thomas. Do they give us some free will a little bit, or are they pretty, strong on the reins and whatnot? Or the people that I'm working with, are they real personable and genuine people, that type of thing? So outside of like just acting, just more so the spaces that I find myself in and what I am willing and not willing to accept being an actor and going through certain processes.
Goodnight Tyler is very, very funny, by the way. I know that plug we made it sound good, but it's really hilarious.
Yes, come see it on Friday and Saturday. Camae, so before I did the Mountaintop, which I was always planning on doing because it was my senior year at K, so like it's gonna be the last show, because the spring one was a musical and I don't sing. But before that, I was very, very strongly considering not continuing acting. And I was just going through a lot. And I just didn't think acting was for me. But I knew I wanted to work with Dr. Thomas, and I was like, let's just do it, and I did, and I said this at our first talk back too, this makes me want to act, it made me want to act even more, I itch for it, I still itch for it for today, and it just meant so much to me. Like I said, it was the biggest show I ever had, so I've never really had, I won't say I never had, but this character, where I got to play a Black character as well, I think this is the first time where I really got to have a big role that was meant to be Black, and actually delve into it, and it was complex, and it wasn't the general stereotype, and I really got to, it was a real person for me, even though she was an angel. It changed the way it made me realize what type of roles I want to play, what type of actor I want to be, and the things I need to consider as when I'm acting and I take on a role. And also how important connection is with other people on stage. I've also never done a play that's two people in one setting. That's a different beast in itself. But also, I think I prefer it, honestly. I know I'm not gonna do it a lot. Not everything I'm gonna do is gonna be that way, but me and Pitt did a play that summer after that was the same thing where it was one setting. And I'm realizing that I do really like that. It helps a story stay together in one. So that was also very nice. And yeah, I don't know. I just it makes me want to really just be an actor after doing Camae. She's something special, and I love her so much. There you go.
Just real quick, I was very lucky as a director because I had fantastic actors, but one thing that a lot of directors are talking about is everything else that happens, right? So this play would not have been possible if we did not have the crew that we had, the stage management team that we had, and it would not have been possible if we were not at the institution that we were at, right? I was able to make a lot of choices. We were all able to make a lot of choices, and the support team that we had was totally on board the entire time. Every vision we had, they ran with, well, it was a door situation, but within their abilities. But work like this cannot happen unless actors like this are supported and directors are supported and collaboration really happens. So for me, that's what changed me, an understanding, a reminder of how fantastic collaboration is. I've never directed Black actors before. And it was the first time. It was fantastic, and kind of what the two of you sparked this desire to direct, and also kind of reminded me of the kind of things I want to do. So first of all, let's get up to these two fantastic people, and also the KIA for giving us a venue by which to talk about this fantastic man, and also to all of you for coming out in this hellish weather. It's not right, well, to come see us. Thank you very much. Keep supporting the KIA. They do incredible work. Have a fantastic afternoon.